Good afternoon. I would like to call to order today's meeting of the State of Nevada Board of Prison Commissioners to order for Tuesday, April 20th. Tuesday, geez, that was really good, Sam. For Tuesday, July 27th, 2021 to order. If I could ask the clerk to take the roll, please. Mr. Daniels, if someone can take the roll down there?
Yes. Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, I'll take the roll here from Las Vegas. Governor Sisolak.
Here.
Secretary of State Barbara Sadowski.
Here.
And Attorney General Ford.
Here.
Everyone is here. Governor, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Item number 2 is public comment. I will, this is the first time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item on today's agenda, this is for items only on today's agenda, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and comments will be limited to, I think it's 3 minutes today. Good afternoon. You push the lid where the mouth is on the bottom, and the red light will come on the microphone. There you go, it's on.
There we go. Good afternoon, Governor, Commissioners. My name is Nick Shepak. I am the Policy and Program Associate with the ACLU of Nevada. I'm here today to speak on item 10. After 10 months, 3 meetings, and a legislative session, I think we are at a point where we will not have to talk about inmate account deductions any longer. The Exhibit 10 that has been provided by the Department of Corrections has answered many of the questions that we and the public have had. The new process through the Administrative Procedures Act is going to be somewhat arduous, and we understand that this is going to take time for the department to understand. The governor's recommendations to implement the caps prior to getting the regulation through the process is something that we are very happy to see. The one thing we do want to encourage is that there was a lot of confusion on July 1st as to what was happening, when this was going to happen. And while we might not have had a timeline at that point, we encourage the department, the board, to communicate with the incarcerated population and with the public so that they can understand that this money is eventually going to be refunded and what's going to happen. We had many calls of people who deposited large amounts of money expecting the deduction caps, and they didn't see them. However, as I said, this exhibit makes a lot of sense to us. We think this is a great step. We think we're going to be able to put this issue to bed. We thank everybody for their time and work on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak during the first session of public comment? I've got some more up here in Carson City. Yes, good afternoon.
Hi. Okay. My name is Elizabeth Quintero. I am here as a member of Return Strong regarding the struggles we have faced to hold the Nevada Department of Corrections accountable over the past year. On the agenda today, again, is temporary AR 258, this time for information only. Since September of 2020, we have fought to have the full story told and considered in the decision-making process. Public comments and open meeting laws were not created for the public to just show up and be ignored or brushed off, yet that is what it seems to be happening. We have open meetings and public comments to create a space where we, the people, have an opportunity to directly participate in our democracy. In this space, this has been problematic. We are allowed to speak, but decisions are made without our concerns being fully heard or addressed. The Board of Prison Commissions has met on October 8th, 2020, January 25th, 2021, and April 20th, 2021, and not once were the issues with the implementation of the temporary AR 258 fully addressed. Each one of these meetings were chaos. The phone systems didn't work correctly. Our letters and documentation that were sent in were not reviewed by the committee. As a matter of fact, you were not even aware of it existed, let alone read or considered it in advance of making decisions. Our democracy is built on a system of checks and balances that are intended to ensure that no one person has power that can't go unchecked. For that to happen, it requires those with the oversight ability to pay attention, ask the right questions, and make decisions that are just. It appears that there is no one with that authority who is willing to govern correction, which is the task that is assigned to this board. We are asking that you slow down and gather all the information and allow us space to ask questions and truly participate in the democratic process and address the issues and concerns that impact our families, our loved ones, and our lives. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else in Carson City wishing to speak during the first session of public comment? Anyone else? No. Okay, do I have anyone in Las Vegas wishing to speak during public comment?
We do, Governor. Go ahead, ma'am, introduce yourself and you can go ahead and begin.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Patricia Adkisson. My comments today relate to AR 258 and the apparent malfeasance related to NDOC's action and this board's actions, inaction, and representations related to the same. The relevant statutory scheme in Nevada requires that the NDOC comply with the requirements of the Nevada Administrative Procedures Act when establishing AR 258 and related regulations. Otherwise, the regular regulations are invalid. To date, because of the failure to comply with the statutory requirements, no lawful AR 258 has ever been created, and the representations to the contrary voiced at the January 25th board meeting that were relied upon must now be reviewed for malfeasance and improper governmental action. The illegal seizure of inmate money has now created a significant liability issue that the voting public is watching very closely. I notified this board last October 8th and provided a 233B petition, and despite proper notice, the NDOC and this board continue to ignore the public outcry. Governor, as you are responsible for the appointment of the director, the voting public will consider the director's unchecked actions in upcoming elections. The facts can no longer be conveniently overlooked. The NDOC can never unilaterally adopt any regulation, temporary or otherwise. They are limited to regulations contemplated by Chapter 209 only. Further, this board is not exempt by NRS 233B requirements and must be responsive when approving all other regulations. Governor, my credibility is beyond question, as I am the one who identified the problems related to AR 258 and brought it to your attention, along with many concerns to begin with. Please take the things I'm telling you seriously. You have a duty to ensure that the laws of the state are followed. With that being said, I have in my hand an audio copy of the oral arguments and opinion for the case of Raby versus State from the Nevada Supreme Court, which states the sentence imposed must be a sentence imposed for the crime, and therefore is no sentence contemplated by NRS 193165. Lastly, I submit a completed NDOC grievance, the supporting audio and other supporting documents to this board yesterday, which sets out evidence of malfeasance by NDOC. NDOC is classifying non-crimes with no convictions as felony convictions. The audio file is the oral argument by the Nevada Supreme Court definitively establishing the unlawful NDOC unilateral determination. You have an oversight duty. Governor, I am begging you, please review the materials I've submitted and take immediate action. And as always, I'm available to speak or meet with you anytime. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else wishing to speak during the first session of public comment in Las Vegas?
Yes, Mr. Governor.
Good afternoon. My name is Barbell Warren, and I'm a member of Return Strong and would like to continue asking answers and accountability about our questions over the last year. Let's go back to October 8th and some of the unresolved questions that remain. At that time, there were $220,000 that was collected in the month of September under the unapproved temporary AR. That money was left on the table, and the decision of whether it would be returned to the people or not was unresolved. Governor Sisolak, you asked NDOC to report at the next meeting where the money was and provide an account of what was taken. NDOC was allowed to revert to the status quo without addressing what to be done with the money that was already collected. There have been no resolution to this, and when you approved the temporary AR on January 25th, you did not address it. That money has not been sent to victims, and incarcerated people have paid off restitution that still show unpaid and are continuing to have money garnished when they have paid their debt in full. That is due to the lack of communication between parole and probation, inmate banking, and the courts, due to the way that Marcy's law is applied. Since restitution must be first paid first, it is creating a financial limbo with the monies of incarcerated people. I would like to share information from Mr. Terrace Brothers, who was recently approved for the Pardons Board. He writes the following. My court ordered restitution in the amount of $4,360. Deducted $996.50 in incoming funds throughout 2020 and 2021, when Marcy's law kicked in and the director revised the AR, leaving me with a balance of $3,363.50 owed. On June 10th, 2021, my girlfriend went to PNP in Las Vegas and paid the balance in full, all $3,360.50. My entire balance of $4,360 is paid in full, and I have all receipts. All my court obligations are fully resolved. Yet, as of July 1st, 2021, according to PNP records, I owe $996.50, the exact amount that was deducted by NDOC. According to NDOC, I still owe $3,360.50, the exact amount that was paid to PNP. Even though my obligations are paid in full, they continue to deduct 50% of all deposits that come into my books, meaning they are garnishing money that I have paid in full, and now I will have to fight to get it back. In addition, when I'm released, they will take that money from my trust account, and I will go back to the streets penniless after 29 years in prison.
Okay, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to wrap up your comments, please.
We're again asking for you to slow down, listen, and get answers to our questions. We have a stake in these decisions. Our families are impacted. Our loved ones are impacted. And we deserve to have our elected officials represent us in this process. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any further comments in Las Vegas?
We do.
Yes, hello, my name is Nicole Tate, T-A-T-E, and I'm here with Return Strong to again ask for answers that have never been addressed. I have been here repeatedly to shine a light on the truth behind the rhetoric about what is happening in Nevada prisons. Since September 1st, we have relentlessly showed up to every opportunity to address a variety of issues and concerns that we as stakeholders and our loved ones as impacted people have regarding decisions and policies of NDOC and by default the state of Nevada. At the January 24th Board of Commissioners meeting, you passed a temporary AR that was to implement 50% caps on deductions. We have watched and rewatched that meeting to be sure we did not misinterpret the intent, which we did not. That was intended to be a cap on both wages and money sent to inmate books. Again, NDOC did not follow the directives given. On March 1st, they implemented deductions again and again. They were collecting up to 100% of people's money. What they did was take up the 50% in restitution and then stack the deductions, court fees, medical, room and board on top of the 50%. Truth, it put most people in even a worse position than they were on September 1st when the temporary AR was initially instituted. Why would we have gone through months of research and discussions to only implement something that was worse than it was on September 1st? It makes no sense at all, but we can't get anyone to hold them accountable. When they implemented the correct deductions again on March 1st, that we fought for someone to get help, we fought to get someone to help us, and it became a legislative issue. Here's an excerpt from a letter of a PI worker at High Desert. I am writing to you due to concern for inmates at NDOC. We are given the impression that deductions were reassessed to meet a fair and reasonable standard so that the department could meet their duty to collect restitution and inmates could provide for themselves. As of March 1st, 50% of our wages and money were being taken in restitution alone. Our understanding was that was supposed to be a maximum deduction of 50% and money's on our books. What was done at 50%, 24.5% was 50% restitution, 24.5% room and board, 5% PI capital fund, 5% victim fund, and 10% for savings. They'll all be taken from the gross pay. That's 94.5% in the deductions. All I knew is what I was fighting for. After those deductions, I was left with $1.13. I work for PI, so while the prison left me in indigent status, you are not allowed to claim indigent status even if you're employed with slave wages. Governor Sisolak, this is not what was supposed to happen. We do not believe that, but again, a decision was rushed and answers were not clear, and NDOC has then implemented things the way that they want, and there's no recourse when it is done incorrectly. They put it on paper and implemented it as fact. Why would you or us fought so hard to make sure there was a fair policy only to have it worse than it was before? It makes no sense, but who holds the government accountable? If you're not doing it, who can? This has become egregious and has not ended, even with laws passed to address it. Please tell us how we can get these things addressed if the people approving policy don't even care if it's implemented correctly after the fact. We don't have an ombudsman. The governor's office is non-responsive. Our legislators are at a loss. Attorneys can't take the number of lawsuits that would be needed, and we can't afford to pay them. When is enough enough? If it's the board's responsibility to govern corrections, the truth is while we are always on them about the issues that become glaringly obvious, NDOC is the only one at fault, is not the only one at fault, excuse me. Again, where do we go from here? How would you hold NDOC accountable and where do we go for recourse? Thank you.
Next speaker.
She's on her way.
Hello, my name is Jody Hocking. I'm the founder and organizer of Return Strong. I'm once again here to talk about our concerns with NDOC. Over the past year, we've shown up, we've asked, we've begged, we've negotiated, we've cried, and we have relentlessly fought to shine a light on issues that are happening within NDOC. We were really never looking for this work. The work found us, and we stepped up because there's a need to shine a light and make people aware of what is happening. Because if it isn't us, then who's going to do it? My comrades have shared some events leading up to the legislative session and the occurrences time and again that no one stepped up to hold NDOC accountable for not doing what was directed. I clearly remember at the COVID task force meeting, Director Daniels telling us that we're seeking resolution from the wrong avenues and to go to our legislators, that it was his job to follow the laws, but the legislature creates them and the governor signs them. So we did. We fought on two of our biggest issues for this year, the inmate deductions and programming days that were lost during COVID. They both were fought for, one passed by legislature and signed by Governor Sisolak. Just like the temporary AR, the law is not being implemented in a timely manner. The deductions are still being taken at 50% plus and have been since March incorrectly. According to OMD, the programming days and credits from AB 241 were given in meritus credits, which is a mystery fraction of a day. So NDOC took programming days and days, 5 days a month, and they gave them back in credits, which appears to be calculating at approximately 30% of an actual day. The bill clearly states days of credit, and the entire session focused on programming days and the magic number of 5 days. That was where the calculation of 60 days came from. 5 days a month times 12 months is 60 days, not 20, which is what people are being credited. It's a game of smoke and mirrors with the executive, legislative, and judicial branches, but we know what they did. And what they did was not comply with what that bill was intended to do, not on SB 22 and not on AB 241. We're here today to really say, what's our recourse? Where do we go? Who holds everyone accountable? Who holds NDOC accountable? Who holds the Board of Prison Commissioners accountable? This is really only two issues. We probably have 1,000. Lack of food, rotten food, negligent medical care, lack of programming, inhumane treatment, abuse by corrections officers, banking issues. Literally, we have thousands of letters from incarcerated people who eloquently tell the story of what is happening within Nevada prisons. And we understand that there are two sides of a story and that perception is different depending on what side of that you're on. But we have been unable to even touch the tip of the iceberg in getting any of these things addressed. I guess our question is, who cares, really? Who holds government agencies accountable to the law, to administrative regulations? This is bigger than deductions and days of credit. There's something inherently wrong with the system. We're still sitting here almost a year later, bickering over the
Thank you.
same.
I'm sorry, but I've got to ask you to wrap up your comments, please.
Yep. There's something inherently wrong with the system, and we're here to continue to bring the injustice to light, find ways to improve communication and transparency, and decrease the need for accountability. We need your help doing it.
Anyone else for public comment? One up.
Hello, Commissioners. This is Mercedes Maharis, member, Nevada Silver-Haired Legislative Forum, Senate District 3. And I'm a Nevada chaplain and have worked with prisoners for over 20 years. First, I'm not sure if this is a legal meeting because the 3-day notice was messed up. So I would look at that if I were you, Governor Sisolak, about who is putting out things on the internet in your name. I would like to request that all incarcerated persons please be tested for COVID. It's a no-brainer. I know that you know that. I don't know why it's not being done. But many people are suffering, and too many people have died. Isn't taking 1 cent of family and friends' money double taxation? I don't know what else you would call it. Please examine that. Number 3, use of force. I sent all of you, commissioners, the tables, the charts. I doubt that you've ever seen them before. I almost had a heart attack, and I very could well at my age. That one took me over the edge. 18,396 uses of force, planned and unplanned. Well, in the last 5 years, it's incomprehensible. Please do something about it. You have the power. Just stop it now. There is Taylor versus Wolf, you know, many, many years ago, and us old-timers know about it, for mental health. I don't believe anybody has even read it in current times to know that it's the law. We have so much mental illness, causing so many people to spend more time in prison that it doesn't seem like we're living in a civilized state. That really hurts. Okay? About the heat, we have reports of people sleeping on the floor, trying to stay cool. This is inhumane. The new mission statement said, oh, we're going to have humane treatment, we're going to have substance abuse counseling. I know that COVID is here. But Governor Sisolak, enough is enough. And if I have one more report.
I'm sorry, I've got to ask you to wrap up your comments, please.
Yes, one more report about people who can't get urine cups because they're bleeding urine. I don't know. I just don't know how far it's going to go. Please stop this inhumane treatment. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else in Southern Nevada?
Yes, sir.
Hello, thank you. My name is Mark Betancourt, for the record. Thank you. I'm here today to echo the comments of many of the public who has already spoken about the inmate deductions and the problems that are there, and I think I just want to echo their sentiments and reiterate that what we see here is a lack of transparency, accountability, and communication for over a year, and this is not a new problem. We see this as someone who continually works with people who are incarcerated, a family member of 3 people who have been. The inaction or apathy continually creates suffering in people's lives while we debate. And so I want to close with that and spare you the time. Obviously, our friends have outlined the number of issues that we have here today. Thank you for your time, everyone, and looking forward to further conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Next speaker.
I think that's it, Mr. Governor.
That's it. Do we have anybody else? Okay, close the public comment up here, but if you wanted to say a few things, come on up. Go ahead. Okay, if you can turn on the microphone, the little one where there's a head on it, there with like a mouth. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Adrian Lowry. I'm here to support Return Strong. And I want to, of course, echo what they've already said, but I also want to talk about the process that I've seen here, that the board has told NDOC what to do in terms of the deductions, that it should not be above a certain level, and they ignored that direction. They just did not do it. And then finally, we came to the legislature and we passed that law, you signed that law, and they're still not doing it. So I just don't understand. It seems like the Wild West at the NDOC looks like lawlessness to me, and I just wonder what can we do to get some accountability there. Thank you.
Thank you. Did we have anyone else for public comment, either in Carson City or in Las Vegas? No? No. Okay, seeing no further comment, I will close item number 2, public comment. Move on to item number 3, acceptance and approval of the minutes. Did everybody get the corrected minutes?
Yes, sir. And I move for approval.
General Ford, you got the corrected ones?
I did, yes.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Item number 4, Nevada Department of Corrections update.
Sislak. Yeah, go ahead. Good afternoon, Governor Sislak, Attorney General Ford, and Secretary of State Sagaski. As of today, this is Director Charles Daniels for the record. As of today, NDOC has an offender population of 10,813 and 2,393 active employees. This number excludes pending transfers from local jurisdictions and any new hires. While NDOC did see a decline in COVID-19 positive results among staff, we are beginning to have both unvaccinated and vaccinated staff test positive. As a result, we have updated our protocols to better mitigate exposure. These protocols include reinstituting face masks within our respective facilities and offices. NDOC continues to actively work with the Division of Human Resource Management on maneuvering success factors and are finding discrepancies in candidate screenings. As of July 23rd, NDOC is experiencing a 19% vacancy rate. This afternoon, my team is prepared to discuss NDOC's medical update, operations update, youth support discussion, and update to AR 258. As previously shared, NDOC has less than 1% of staff work remotely during the pandemic and continues to be identified as essential. I would be remiss if I failed to continue to publicly acknowledge and extend my gratitude to NDOC's hardworking staff, both uniformed and non-uniformed, despite the extraordinary and debilitating impacts of COVID-19 that's had on our staffing, changes to protocols and challenges to their personal lives. Their tireless commitment has directly contributed to our ability to remain agile and steadfast in the fight against COVID-19. At this time, if there are no questions or comments, I would like to turn it over for a briefing to Dr. Michael Manev, Medical Director.
That's the next agenda item.
Thank you, Director Daniels. My name is Michael Minev, and I am the Medical Director for the Nevada Department of Corrections. The Nevada Department of Corrections has been proactive in its COVID-19 vaccination efforts. The Nevada Department of Corrections currently utilizes infection control nurses to schedule both offenders and staff for COVID-19 vaccination. Agency-wide COVID-19 vaccine clinic notifications via email have been sent to all staff bi-monthly since February 2021 and to all offenders since March 2021. Offenders and staff have been offered COVID-19 vaccinations in-house. As of July 26, 2021, 6,604 individuals have been fully vaccinated for COVID-19 at the Nevada Department of Corrections. This includes 1,005 staff, which is 41.9% of total staff, and 5,599 inmates, which is 51.7% of total inmate population. The Nevada Department of Corrections Medical Department and executive staff intend to persist with at least bi-weekly town halls at each of our major facilities to educate both offenders and staff on the importance of COVID-19 vaccination. The Moderna and Janssen vaccines are made available through local health departments to staff on site at all of our major facilities. In addition, local health authorities have provided the Pfizer vaccine to offenders at Lovelock Correctional Center, Carling Conservation Camp, and Humboldt Conservation Camp. On May 1st, 2021, the Nevada Department of Corrections reinstated inmate visitation. In accordance with CDC, local health authority guidelines, and agency COVID-19 protocols, the Nevada Department of Corrections is committed to the safety of offenders, visitors, and staff. In the 81st session of the Nevada Legislature, the passage of Assembly Bill 466 awarded Prison Medical $16 million to maintain its ongoing hepatitis C virus treatment and replace medical and dental equipment that are now beyond their useful life. Efforts continue to provide the community standard of care within our institutions. The Nevada Department of Corrections continues to identify and treat offenders infected with the hepatitis C virus. As of July 27, 2021, 66 offenders are currently receiving treatment for hepatitis C, and 140 offenders have completed treatment for hepatitis C. The Nevada Department of Corrections is on schedule to complete the treatment of all hepatitis C positive offenders by October 29, 2021. And at this time, I'd like to hand back a presentation to Director Charles Daniels.
Mr. Governor, could I ask a question?
Certainly, General Ford.
Thank you for the presentation thus far. Medical Director, if I understood your numbers correctly, half of our officers have been vaccinated and half of the prisoners have been, offenders have been vaccinated. Is that right, approximately?
It was at 41.9% of the staff and 51.7% of offenders have been fully vaccinated.
Do you, to what do you attribute those numbers as opposed to it being, a greater percentage of both staff and offenders?
Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, why are those numbers not 100%? How about that?
Well, there is obviously a lot of vaccine hesitancy. There have been, as you know, instances where there have been isolated side effects from the vaccines given. We have made every attempt to go out to the institutions. I've personally gone out to institutions and tried to speak with not only staff, but also offenders to try to convince them of the obvious benefits of vaccination. However, I think that the media and the unfortunate minimal side effects that do exist out there seem to be overinflated and has caused a lot of vaccine hesitancy in not only our community, but throughout the U.S.
Well, let me ask you a pretty direct question then. Is the short answer that the people who have not been vaccinated, it's because they don't want to be vaccinated?
I think that that's partially the answer, but I think that there is still a lot of room for those individuals that have not been vaccinated to be convinced of vaccination.
So it's not because you've not attempted to get them vaccinated?
No.
And it's not because we don't have vaccines available?
No, we have plenty of vaccine available, not only for all of our staff, but also our inmates.
Okay, I think it's important for the public to know that. So thank you so much for indulging my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, General Ford. I'm going to follow up on that. Doctor, I want to clarify. When you're talking about side effects from the vaccines, those are anecdotal stories and they're extremely rare. I don't know how many you're dealing with, but I'd like to know when you bring that up as a reason for people not getting a vaccine. How many cases have you had where you've got people with side effects from the vaccines?
We have not, Governor, this is Dr. Minev for the record. We have not had any individuals that have had any side effects from vaccines. However, as you know, throughout the country, there have been minimal effects associated with some of the vaccines that have caused hesitancy with agreement to get
And I'll agree with you, there's been some sore arms as a result of the vaccine, and that's about the extent of it. But I want to emphasize to you that you're aware of the new state policy that's going into effect next month, that we're mandating vaccines, and if you don't get the vaccine, you have to get tested weekly at your own expense, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so have you made everybody aware of that so they can get their vaccine before they have to start paying for their own weekly tests?
Correct, we will make that known to our staff.
Okay, I'd like you to make it known as soon as you can so they have time to get the second vaccine if they get the Moderna vaccine. Because General Ford is right, 41.9% of staff is atrocious. And it's just not acceptable. Okay, Director Daniels, continue, please.
Yes, thank you, Governor Sisolak. At this time, as you look at the agenda, there's a report by Chief Medical Officer for the state, which is Dr. Azam. However, he presented a written document, and he is not here, as far as I know, to make a verbal. Where is he?
Might be in Carson.
Dr. Azam, would you happen to be in Carson?
Yes.
Thank you, Governor.
Good afternoon.
Okay, thank you. So, again, you do have a copy of or just for the record, Aizen Azam. Good afternoon, Governor and esteemed board members. Good afternoon, everybody. You do have a copy of my report, and I want to cover the main points. Nevada NRS requires regular inspection of correctional facilities. So up until today, 3 facilities were inspected, which are the Florence McCleary Women's Correction Centers, High Desert Prison, State Prison, and Desert Correction Center, Southern Desert Correction Center. The inspection includes sanitation and dental, medical, and nutritional sanitation. The inspection of Florence McCleary showed no deficiencies, while the Southern Desert Correction Center had several dietary and sanitation deficiencies, including the fact that culinary staff are not complying with adequate hygiene, such as hand washing or sanitation of equipment. And the Southern Desert also had 1 deficiency. All deficiencies were addressed on the spot and were corrected. Our inspectors explained to the culinary staff that these are high-risk deficiencies which may end up having food outbreaks in prison, like lack of hand washing or lack of sanitation of the equipment. Regarding the dental and the medical inspections, 1 facility was inspected and another one will be inspected by the end of the year. Only 1 simple deficiency was identified and corrected. Regarding the diet adequacy, no deficiencies were identified in any of the 3 facilities which I mentioned. And in rest, really, again, we are working closely with the Department of Corrections to reduce the spread of COVID in prison and encourage the staff and the inmates to get vaccinated as soon as possible, because vaccination is the only way for us out of this pandemic. Otherwise, this is my update, and I will be happy to answer your questions.
That's good. Thank you, Doctor. Anyone have any questions, Dr. San? Nope. Seeing none. Thanks, Doctor. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Director Daniels, next one is 7, I guess.
Thank you very much, Governor Sisolak. I'd like to turn number 7 over to Brian Williams. He's our Deputy Director of Operations. Deputy Director Williams.
Good afternoon, everyone. Deputy Director of Operations, Brian E. Williams Sr. Use of force grievance discussion. On March 24th, 2021, the Employee Management Committee heard arguments from Officer Paul Lundquist and other officers as it relates to safety of officers and the removal of lethal options within NDOC facilities. Lethal options were removed in May of 2016 pursuant to an order from Governor Brian Sandoval's office. Since that time, NDOC has continued to explore best practices for less lethal munitions. Over the past several months, NDOC has monitored the 81st session and the bills associated with use of force. Prior to the beginning of the 81st session, NDOC began conducting intense research to identify the best alternatives to lethal force. This research was due to the numerous incidents within our facilities where force was used, however, was ineffective in resolving the incident and thus jeopardized the safety and security of staff, inmates, and the facility. As most correctional professionals know, use of force continues to be a topic within all correctional facilities throughout the country. NDOC has continued to experience an increase of use of force incidents over the past several months. Factors range from modified operations during COVID, increased introduction of K2/spice, or what most of you know it as synthetic marijuana, and offenders challenging authority due to limited resources to gain compliance. Due to this increase, NDOC has revised AR 405 use of force and explored other non-lethal options to gain compliance and to protect staff and inmates. To accomplish this, we solicit assistance from ALS, Amtech Less Lethal Systems. During this search, we have identified several less lethal munitions options and begun implementation and training for these munitions. We will also be presenting revised policy changes to the BOP for approval in the near future. I'm confident with these changes, we will see a reduction in assaults on staff and inmates throughout the department while providing a safer and secure facility. Lastly, due to the sensitive nature of the institutional operations and munitions involved, I would humbly request any further discussion on this topic be conducted in a non-public forum to protect the integrity of our institutional policies and procedures, as well as the safety of staff and inmates. Do I have any questions?
Do we have any questions regarding this item for Deputy Director? General Ford?
None here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Moving on.
This is Director Daniels, and I will again turn number 8 over to Deputy Director Williams.
Thank you, Director Daniels. Deputy Director of Operations, Brian E. Williams Sr. again. This is just an update to the Nevada Department of Corrections operations. As the Nevada Department of Corrections continues to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, we are very cognizant of the importance of returning our facilities back to normal operations. All NDOC staff have remained committed to adhering to all COVID-19 protocols while ensuring staff, inmates, and visitors are safe. As we continue our endeavor to normalcy, the Director Daniels has announced the reopening of visiting effective May 1st, 2021. NDOC began allowing outside visitors back into our facilities in phases under strict protocol. While the 14th month suspension of visiting was necessary to limit the spread of the virus into our facilities, NDOC recognizes the importance of family and friend reunification, which provides a positive influence in eventual reintegration of offenders back into society. In addition, NDOC Training Division introduced a new training curriculum which focused on COVID protocols and non-uniform training initiatives. This training is specific to our non-uniform and non-NDOC staff. Due to the importance, the inaugural trainings were conducted by associate wardens and above. NDOC Operation and Programs Department have continued to work closely together in creating schedules that are conducive to COVID protocols and helping to mitigate the spread. i.e. cleaning, sanitizing, movement, social distancing, etc. We anticipate all programs to begin by the beginning of August 2021. And I would also like everyone to note that all NDOC facilitated programs continue to operate during the COVID outbreak. I know there's been conversation regarding programming and none happening, but our NDOC facilitated programs continue during the COVID outbreak. And that's the end of my report, sir.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the Deputy Director on this one? Secretary Sagaski.
Thank you, and thank you for the report, Director. Appreciate that. Can you tell me, did you do this all through Zoom or some technology to get everybody in the facility so that we weren't spreading anything?
Deputy Director Williams, for the record, all NDOC employees were identified as essential. So if you were an NDOC employee and you worked within our facilities, you would still carry out your programming. Now, social distancing and reduced class sizes were implemented, but those organizations such as the school districts and colleges, they did distant learning or packets. They would drop off at the facility and then our staff would then pass them out to those inmates in their classes. So if you were at NDOC, you were definitely allowed to come in and conduct your classes. If you were non-NDOC, you were not allowed in, but you were able to do distant learning.
Thank you for answering my questions. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Secretary. General Ford, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Moving on to item number 9.
Thank you very much, Governor. This is Director Daniels. I would like to turn this over to medical records, which would be a report from Chris Franklin. Chris.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Chris Franklin, Management Analyst 4 for the Nevada Department of Corrections. Before you is submitted Temporary Administrative Regulation 639 on medical records. Administrative Regulation 639 implements standardized maintenance of medical, dental, and mental health records for offenders in compliance with HIPAA requirements. Key provisions in this regulation include preserving the confidentiality of medical records at facilities during offender transfers. That was it, sir.
That completes your report?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions on this one? General Ford, any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, you want us to take action on this one, Director?
Yes, sir. It would be up for vote.
Yes.
To move it from temporary to permanent
Yes.
administrative regulation.
Yes, Governor. What we would like to do is to bring this up for a vote to transition from temporary to permanent.
Okay. Does any board member have an opinion on that or a motion?
Mr. Governor, I will support the request and move to convert this from a temporary reg to a permanent reg.
Okay, we have a motion from General Ford. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Okay, item number 10, Administrative Regulation 258.
Thank you, Governor Sisolak. This is Director Daniels for the record. I would like to turn this over to Venus Bahoda, and she is Chief of Inmate Banking, and she should be up at your location.
She certainly is. Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Venus Bahoda. I'm the Chief of Purchasing and Inmate Services for the Department of Corrections. So as you know, Senate Bill 22 was passed during the 2021 legislative session, signed by the governor, and became effective July 1st, 2021. Specific to deductions applied to offenders' incoming funds, the following became effective. The prioritization of victim-specific restitution consistent with Marcy's Law, and the reprioritization of other deductions. There was also the implementation of a 25% cap on total deductions for non-wage deposits, and a 50% cap on total deductions for offender payrolls. Senate Bill 22 also required that if the department had a policy related to offender deductions, the policy must be approved through the administrative rulemaking process pursuant to NRS Chapter 233B. AR 258, which is the Inmate Fiscal Procedures for Inmate Banking, is the department's current regulation detailing offender banking policies, including offender deduction percentages. NDOC has drafted a new regulation specific to offender deductions, and it will follow the appropriate course for its approval through the administrative rulemaking process. We are then also revising AR 258 to remove any verbiage related to offender deductions. That AR will be routed through the department's standard process, which is allowable through NRS Chapter 209, which includes final approval by this board. We are working in collaboration with our banking system vendor to update the offender deduction priorities and caps to be compliant with SB 22. We targeted an implementation date for the new deductions in our banking system August 2nd. Thanks to our valued relationship with our vendor, we all understand the importance of this issue. So they've reallocated staff, we've prioritized testing and tested this thoroughly, and actually plan to implement the new deductions tomorrow. All incoming funds right now are currently being processed in accordance with AR 258 temporary, effective January 25th. However, after the new banking system is updated, we will manually adjust any new payrolls and deposits received since July 1st so that the deductions applied are consistent with SB 22.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on this one? So I've just got one, so I'm going to make it, if you can simplify it as much as you could for me. So I understand it's 25% of what family and friends send in is the maximum, and 50% of payroll.
Venus Verhoda for the record, correct, Governor.
Got it, thank you. General Ford, any questions?
Thank you. Just want to confirm, and that's prospectively from July 1, deposits made since July 1 will be allocated 25% and the 50%, but everything before that will be pursuant to the temporary regulation that was in place. Is that right?
Venus Verhoda, yes, AG Ford, you are correct.
Okay, and just to confirm, and that's because the law didn't apply retroactively. It applied prospectively from July 1 going forward. Is that right?
Venus Verhoda, correct.
Thank you so much.
Secretary Sagaski.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you very much for your testimony. I just want to make sure that I'm reading all of this right, and I believe that you are up to date with AR 258, correct? That you're going to implement all this on August 2nd? Is that correct?
Venus Verhoda for the record. So AR 258, again, we are going to have to revise that to remove any of the offender deduction components, because that, if we have a regulation related to those deductions, we have to go through the, the NRS 233B process for that, the administrative rulemaking. So we're basically taking two different avenues, one for the offender deductions, and then AR 258 will follow our normal process to submit before this board.
Okay, and then, so it's August 2nd that SB 22 will be implemented, is that?
Venus Verhoda for the record. So we're actually going to implement tomorrow.
Okay, so you're ahead of the...
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to double check on those two items, and thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Secretary Sagaski. Any further questions on this? Okay. Director Daniels, that wraps it up except for public comment, correct?
Well, I believe there was, Governor, this is Director Daniels. I believe Ms. Verhoda had one more item. I believe she was just on a pause.
I don't think so, but you want to call her back up here, I can.
Well, no, if she's gone, maybe we have our wires crossed somewhat. No problem, Governor.
Did you have something else you wanted to add? No, her testimony was completed.
Thank you, Governor. We have concluded item number 10.
Okay, Secretary Sagaski.
Thank you, Governor. I just wanted to go to a comment from a board member, if that's okay.
Please.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that what I heard from you is to say that there is a mandate for the vaccination, which will be implemented in August, and that anybody who doesn't get vaccinated will have to pay for the testing that's done on a regular basis. Is that correct?
That's for all state employees, correct? Kevin, you want to come on up? To explain what Kevin just explained to me, we can't mandate the vaccine, but we're requiring the vaccine. If they don't get the vaccine, they have to undergo weekly testing.
Okay.
They either have to come in with certification, this is for all state employees,
Okay.
that you are vaccinated, or else you will have to get a weekly test. And some of the tests are free if you go to a testing site, but you have to do it every week, or you have to, if you go to a site, you have to pay for it. The state will not pay for it.
Okay, then my second question is, there's health issues with some people can't get vaccinated even for flu
There are
shots or anything.
exclusions.
And so does that have to be a doctor's note that would preclude them from having to get it, and then would they be left alone, or do they have to continue to get tested?
You want to go to the table now?
Even if you have a doctor's note saying for medical reasons you can't get the injection, you still have to get tested?
Every week.
Okay. Okay. And do we have any information on any long-term effects from the vaccination yet? And has it been federally, has the mandate come down from the federal government, or have they okayed it federally?
There isn't a mandate, as you said. There is a request. The VA is doing it for all of their employees, I know that. But the testing is, there's been no studies as of this date as to the effects long-term of the vaccine.
Okay. Thank you, Governor. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, moving on to item number 11. This is the second time set aside for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on any item, please step forward, identify yourself for the record, and comments be limited to 3 minutes.
Did I get it?
You got it.
Thank you, Governor. Holly Wellborn, Policy Director for the ACLU of Nevada. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I wanted to talk on a topic not on today's agenda, but sort of related to Senate Bill 22. I've been engaged in conversations with several incarcerated individuals at Ely State Prison who engaged in a hunger strike recently because they had been suddenly cut off from access to canteen. Those individuals included admin segregation in protective custody, not disciplinary segregation where canteen access is already denied. We were told that the justifications were two. First, that other individuals in disciplinary segregation were abusive toward correctional officers, and they used Senate Bill 22 as the reason why they could deny canteen access. So I wanted to make clear on the record today that Senate Bill 22 does not speak to canteen access at all. It speaks to the package program, so it's not at issue. There were conversations between the warden at Ely and the individuals who were engaged in the strike, and we thought that they were coming to an agreement, but unfortunately we found out recently that that is not the case, that Ely State is going to proceed with this new restriction for individuals who are not in disciplinary segregation, denying them access to one of the only comforts that a person has when they're living in a cell for 23 hours a day. And the word is now that we are potentially looking at another potential strike. I know of at least one individual who is hypoglycemic, and this could be dangerous to that individual's health. So I did want to bring it to the board's attention. We're doing everything we can to let individuals at Ely know what their rights are, how the strikes work, and to see what potential options might exist for those individuals. But we are coming here today to plead for some type of resolutions to this issue. The men who are incarcerated want a resolution to this issue, and I am speaking on their behalf today. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Anyone else in Carson City?
No, but can I say hi to Holly? Because I think we've talked to Holly through our office, Governor, and it's nice to see her in person. Thank you.
I believe so.
Hello, my name is Adrian Lowry, and I wanted to press the issue of the amount of people who are dying in Nevada prisons. I haven't checked the recent statistics, but as of the entire, up until the last time I checked, which is not too long ago, that more people are dying in Nevada prisons than in any other state. And I just wanted to see if this board can do anything to figure out why that's happening, or if it's just going to be, something that's not examined. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in Carson City? No? Okay, let's go down to Las Vegas.
We have some here. Let's go to my right and then we'll go to the left.
My name is Patricia Adkisson, Adkisson. My other comments relate to the standard by NDOC that are not applied uniformly and do not operate uniformly, implicating violations of the Nevada Constitution, Article 4, subsection 20, and the relevant statutory scheme. This board's failure to provide adequate oversight of the director are also implicated, a violation of Nevada Constitution, Article 5, subsection 21. The policy related to inmate visits is being applied in a manner that unfairly limits residents of Nevada who travel over 300 plus miles while simultaneously allowing out-of-state residents traveling the same distance. Where out-of-state visitors are allowed all-day visits, Nevada residents, specifically Las Vegas residents, are limited to a 2-hour visit. This must be reviewed. I am a voting citizen of Nevada, and when I suffer the extent of airfare, hotel, rental car, and the necessary health care provider for my paralyzed mom, and I only get a 2-hour visit where a non-Nevada resident gets an all-day visit, I'm outraged. The distance traveled and the specific circumstances described are of equitable, objective factors. There is no legitimate reason to prevent contact greetings and all-day visits. Both the inmates and the visitor are given a COVID rapid response test prior to the visit. Plus, my husband and I have both had our vaccines. Also, when we consider the appointed director's unreasonable family visit restrictions, it becomes clear that we must question this administration's policy position implications related to future elections. Your own proclamation has opened the state up completely. Governor, I've also brought maps that show from Napa, Idaho to Carson City, from Roseburg, Oregon to Carson City, and from Las Vegas to Carson City. It is all 431 miles. So I'm traveling just as far as somebody from out of state, but yet they're allowed an all-day visit and I'm not. And, given I'm a Nevada citizen, I think that's, this needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Me? Hi, yes, Governor. My name is Nicole Tate again. That's for Nicole, Nicoletate. During this meeting, it was stated that as of July 26th, there were 5,999 fully vaccinated incarcerated population, which was 51.7%, and 1,005 fully vaccinated staff, which gave 41.9%. However, with the 10,813 incarcerated population as of today, the numbers presented would be 55.47% incarcerated. However, on the Facebook page on the last update provided, it was 61.5% of the incarcerated population. On the last updated staff percentage on May the 14th was 51% staff vaccination. Why is there such a large discrepancy? We are also told that we will be provided a facility by facility update within a week of the June 11th update, yet here it is July 27th and still has not been shared. Considering not only the safety of all involved, this also remains to be inconsistent with NDOC's own visitation phasing schedule, which has not been updated as described on NDOC's own website. Sadly, also, the continued errors in COVID data reporting still shows hundreds of missing cases and at least 8 deaths, which are also missing, several as few as just a few weeks ago, which still remain unresolved. Where is the accountability and transparency? I mean, these are people's lives. In addition, Deputy Director Williams just stated that all NDOC staff follow COVID-19 guidelines. Governor Sisolak also instituted that all employees working in Clark County will wear masks while indoors, yet in violating both NDOC guidelines and Governor Sisolak's mask mandate, Director Daniels and Deputy Director Williams were both present here in Clark County in their duties as NDOC officials not wearing masks. As leaders in NDOC, shouldn't they be held to a higher standard and follow their own guidelines and government mandates? as they are the ones who are also in the power to monitor their own staff, to follow said guidelines, how can they be trusted to ensure that this is occurring for the safety of this incarcerated population and staff alike? Also, on a completely separate topic, and my apologies for this, but I need to be addressed, I asked you, Governor Sisolak, to please look into the COVID status in the hospitals here in Clark County. As an ICU nurse here in Clark County, it is very bad, almost to the level of the winter wave and climbing at a very high rate. We don't have staff, we don't have adequate linens and supplies, we are suffering, and the road we are heading down is very, very dark. I don't personally think, and I can speak for many of my coworkers alike, that we can personally do this again, and we are heading there now, and we need help. So anything you can do to help us out would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Go ahead,
I just wanted to counter address a couple of things that came up. One, in support of what Holly is saying, so Return Strong has also had conversations.
Could you identify yourself for the record, please?
Oh, sorry, this is Jody Hocking from Return Strong.
Okay.
I apologize. In support of what Holly was saying, so when the hunger strike happened at Ely, we had numerous people that reached out to us about their concerns. They were being told it was part of SB 22. We've also been contacted that there is another looming potential hunger strike. What I wanted to add, Holly said everything perfectly, but I do want to add that it is our understanding that the limitations on canteen are not just happening at Ely. While that is where the hunger strikes are happening, apparently there have been dollar amount restrictions, there have been weekly restrictions that are severely constricting those. And part of the reason that Ely, High Desert, and Florence McClure are getting so upset about it is because they're getting their last meal at approximately 3 o'clock in the afternoon, sometimes 4 o'clock, but they don't get food again until the next day. Normally they would have canteen to supplement any of that food, but because of the restrictions that are happening, people are not eating. They're not getting sufficient quality or quantity of food. I just wanted to add that it is other places. The other thing quickly is that I would like to just make an offer or proposal regarding vaccinations for incarcerated people. I think there have been long-term hesitations and distrust, and a lot of our members talk to us about their fear that that's not really a vaccine and that there's a potential that people are being used as test guinea pigs. I think there's a long history in this country of using people of color specifically, and you guys are having a hard time targeting that. I would like to propose creating a roundtable discussion that includes stakeholders that either support or represent incarcerated people, along with Dr. Menev or whoever else, and look at trying to find solutions, because what is happening right now is not building any trust with inmates, and we may be able to help with that between the ACLU, us. So I'm just putting that on the table. And then the last thing that I just wanted to say is that Ms. Atkinson is correct about what is happening with visitation, but I do, even though I am always on NDOC's butt about everything, I do want to say that they have been working with we're in the process of forming inmate family councils. Mr. Williams and I spoke yesterday about some examples regarding the mileage and people living in Tahoe and having a 20-minute drive as opposed to living in Vegas and having a 6-hour drive and not being extended. And he actually corrected that for those families that I had brought to the table, and had told me that he was going to look into the policy and work on that. So I do want to just at least acknowledge, I'm going to call him out on everything that's wrong. I want to give credit that he has been working with me on visitation because we represent 600 families. So
I've got to ask you to wrap up your comments, please.
That was it. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Ms. Atkinson wants to come back up, Governor.
What's that?
Ms. Atkinson wants to come back up for another public comment.
She already had a public comment.
She did.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. Each person is limited to 3 minutes for the first public comment and 3 minutes for the second public comment.
We have one more coming up now.
Mercedes Maharis, for the record. First, I'd like to say that the best cure for fewer assaults, and I don't think that your meeting should be closed, Mr. Williams, about use of force. It should be open for everyone. The best cure is for jobs and education. And I don't see how it's going to happen now because of the short staffing, which leads to the second thing. The biggest disappointment during legislature for me was that there is no effort to certify our prisons, like schools and hospitals, to minimum standards. Well, how can, we don't even qualify because we do not have the staff. And so what I'm wanting to know is, how can we even function legally without the staff, without causing tremendous mental health difficulties, which they already have in our general population, and physical problems by keeping people locked down because there is not enough staff. So I guess we'll never be certified to standards. My first testimony was 2001 with Dr. Lloyd Rupp, who was the director of corrections for Alaska, the state of Alaska. It cost pennies to do it then. And yet, through all these years, none of the legislature has said, well, we better do this because things are out of control. Now we see the hidden use of force, and things are getting worse because of COVID. Number two, did you know that the mail was stopped to your mailbox? I got an email back. It said, this box is closed. Just thought you'd like to know. The care of the frail. I sat through the grueling 8+ hour sentencing meeting where the result was, oh, well, maybe 6 people could be let go. Well, it's incomprehensible. Other states have let many people go, especially the individuals who are disabled. What are they doing in these cells, subjecting themselves to shorter lives? Why are they there? Okay, Secretary of State, please take over the minutes. Throughout all these years, there's never been a problem, but now we have this non-submission material being blocked, stonewalled, and not put out to the internet.
I'm sorry, I've got to ask you to wrap up your comments.
Okay, fine. Please implement verbal abuse classes immediately. Please watch my 5-minute film about the frail, a person who it's Indiana University
Thank you very much for your comments and being here today. I appreciate it. Thank you. Do we have any more speakers in Southern Nevada?
No, sir.
Seeing none, and we have none in Las Vegas. Moving on to item number 12. We are adjourned. Thank you.